Good morning, everyone. It's the motivator here. Usually, he says, alongside Empress Abner. But she's overseas today. She's young, she's adventurous. She's overseas right now, but will join us next week. So I'm on my lonesome. It's fine. But it's a wonderful day here in London town. Yes, it's grey, it's cloudy, it's not a problem. It's a state of mind. So welcome to the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action. And of course, remembering success is ours for the taking. Oh, yeah, I feel so good this morning. I want to give a big rise up and recognition to galaxyfewy.net. Let's ensure that station continues for another 35 years. And of course, Ian King, who's handed over to me today. And of course, those of you who are taking advantage of the wonderful technology that we enjoy today. This show, indeed, is being beamed directly live via YouTube under the Motivator Show. DE space Motivator Show. There you go. There you can find us, and there you can both hear and see us. Similarly, on Facebook, of course, Facebook under the Motivator Show. And of course, if you have any difficulties with viewing us via either YouTube or Facebook, you can also listen to us via Mixcloud, again, under the Motivator Show. So many multi-platform, multimedia means of transmitting this show today. Long may continue so. Long may we extend the many platforms through which this show is transmitted. And I'm grateful for the loyal and sturdious listeners we have. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I also want to give a big rise up, not only to Empress Abner, who's enjoying a well-deserved break, but I also want to give a big rise up to the mothers and fathers, those who have caring duties. I want to give a big rise up to you all. Keep recognizing you. That's what I want to do. Recognize your efforts. Your efforts are critical if we're to have a wholesome, caring society. Yeah, I recognize you. We recognize you. And long may you continue as such. I also now want to get into that most important part of the program. That's, of course, the health messages. I'm particularly keen this week following my transmission last week, which was quite interesting. But of course, as usual, I am challenged on the street. I am challenged on the phone. I'm challenged wherever I go. Why do this, the motivator? Or they might call me counselor, but there you are. Not a story for another time. I have to remind the listeners, this is an untold story. And I believe it is a travesty that we do not discuss our health sufficiently. Consequently, we have unusually high levels of death directly related to our lifestyles, how we, live our lives. Okay, these are avoidable early deaths. It's particularly important. Really is important because some of the challenges I received this week, I had to act on proactively because it was a question of credibility. I was being questioned on the merits of highlighting the damaging effects that these basic ingredients in our diets could have on our physiology, our bodies, and indeed our spirits and minds. And I found in politics that you must look windward. Must see what's coming, prepare physically and mentally, be ready to take on the challenge. Mhm. So I am prepared for all comers. I emphasize this before going into the health messages. I want to share this with you, experience this week with you. I had two sets of people made contact with myself and question the merits of highlighting the potential damage sugar, salt, fat, carbohydrates, starch in large quantities could have on our bodies and our lifespan. It is astonishing, isn't it? It is astonishing. I don't mind the challenges. It means that we are getting through those tough exteriors, the stubbornness, yeah, the complete rejection of the facts. Some people are slowly hearing the message. So I expect kickback. I expect the kickback. Here is the kickback. In both cases, it's the same, and I carried out exactly the same exercise. And it was women on this occasion. Usually it's men, I have to say. Well, this occasion, it was women, two sets of women. And these women, by their own admission, are big. 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 These are beautiful women. Mm-hmm. You just look at their aura, beautiful people, but simply big. You could use other terminology. I'll leave that to you. But let me assure you, big. Heavier than myself, and I'm 6'1". Yeah? And I'm 11.8 stones. Yeah? Roughly 130, 140 pounds. Or less in American terms. I would question by these two sets of women, in total 7 women, on whether or not it was right for me to suggest that being big would shorten their lives. That was the essence of what they were saying. All the other stuff was whatever. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I've got children, you know. You learn endless patience because you love them. So you're endlessly patient. So I've learned patience. I've learned to be patient. And not simply to go off the handle. So I was challenged that patently that was not true, because they had evidence to the contrary. So I asked a question, an easy question. Well, first of all, using your search engine, what is the average weight for a woman of your height? And they range from just over 5 feet up to 5'7", 5'8". What do you think should be the average weight? I was given a whole range of figures, which were wrong, and 2 is Googled. Now, I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to give you those details. I'm going to ask you to do it yourselves, because you've got to take control, responsibility for yourselves. My role is simply to suggest and recommend. Needless to say, each of these women were way above the average. Way above the average. In fact, heavier than the average male. I say the average deliberately, because they're always extremes, one end or the other. But that wasn't enough. They still felt that there were other physiological, genetic reasons as to why they were so. And of course, I asked the obvious question, well, what was your grandmother's and great-mother's weight, you know? Look at women in the 60s, for example. Maybe that's a good example, you know? That's when your parents were most probably, because they're all roughly my age, yeah? Your parents were, you know, in their prime, as it were. Mm-hmm. Look at weight in the 60s. And they did this on using their search engine, and they found the weight was somewhat lower, actually lower than it is today. Average weights are actually lower. Again, I invite you to use your search engine. That still was not good enough for them. They still argued that I was shaming people, making people feel uncomfortable. And I said, well, oh my gosh, this is your life we're discussing. We want you to live long, healthy lifestyles. And as you get older, not be overwhelmed by a whole range of medical conditions called conditions of age. But actually are avoidable, many of them, if you take action now. That still was not good enough for them. And these are really intelligent people with multiple academic citations. I said, okay, all right. The only way I can do this, because I'm just a radio presenter with a public profile, a public office, and so on. Who am I? Why don't we take the empirical route in that case? And if you're not going to accept what you're seeing here on your own phones, your own computers, okay? Why don't we visit one of the elderly homes here in my borough of Southwark? And we have a number of homes nearby, okay? And indeed, not only do we have homes, we have sheltered housing particularly for the elderly. And sheltered housing is the intermediary between having being in a home where you simply have a room and all the staff take care of everything for you, and sheltered housing where you take care of yourself, but there is staff in the building. Yeah, so you're far more independent. So we went to that intermediary stage. Yeah, the building not far from me, and those of you who are familiar with Southwark will recognise, I don't mind calling the name on this occasion, Darwin Court. And those of you who live locally will recognise that building. Okay. I spoke to the office and said, look, I just want to run this exercise with people, they're unknown, and so on. It's all relatively safe. So I said, well, look, why don't we just stand here in the lobby and observe the elderly? Yeah. And I had 4 of these women with me at the time. Just observe the elderly. And you tell me how many of these elderly people, and when I say elderly, these are persons in their 70s upwards, are big or simply overweight. We stood in and indeed we had to sit, but nothing done, for over an hour. And what was observable? But there were no overweight or big elderly persons. There were none. In fact, one gentleman who was 89, he's walking around like a young man, And why is he walking around like a young man? Because he rides his bike every day, he said. He rides to Brighton and comes back again as is part of his daily exercise routine. He was proud of himself. He spoke lucidly. You could see his body. I was in admiration for him. I look particularly slim and petite by comparison. And the women liked him, I can tell you. They liked him, His name was being called every few moments, Yeah. He oozed a degree of virility, I have to say. Admiration for him. I have admiration for him. I need to get a bike. I need to get on my bike, The women and I left. And I asked a question of them. Is what I've described to you, that we have a diabetes epidemic in our communities, both in Britain and in the Caribbean and many parts of the United States of America, and we should be concerned about it? We have a high above level number of hypertension or high blood pressure in our community. We've got far too many people with high cholesterol levels in their blood. We consume far too much carbohydrates, either from wheat products or some root products such as yams and potatoes. Too many of us do not drink an appropriate amount of water each day, between 2 to 3 liters, depending on what your doctor or nutritionist might recommend. And I went through all the stats with them. And I asked the obvious question. Someone with my profile, with the platform that I now possess, is it incumbent upon me? Is it not incumbent upon me each week, no matter what, before I start my program fully, to ask the question, shouldn't we take care of our health? And praise be to the ancestors. There was even a tear or two amongst them. And some, there's one or two who are still quite, quite strong, but there was no reason to argue. All I could do at that point is hug them. That's what I could do, just hug them. You know, that's all I could do that time, just hug them. I needed them to know that the concern we all should have for each other, you know, meant and included themselves. Okay? I don't mind a good argument, you know. I don't mind a really robust debate. But when it comes to our health, there isn't a debate. We've just got to do it. We just got to do it. Do what is right for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our families, for our network, for our wider communities. This message doesn't simply apply to the African Caribbean and continental African communities here in London, in Southwark. This applies to all communities, because right across the board, these lifestyle conditions pervade all communities, but it is particularly concentrated in my own community. So I'm not going to apologize for spending a good 20, 25 minutes at the beginning of each of my shows asking you to consider the amount of sugar, salt, carbohydrate, fat, starch that you're ingesting from the various foods in our cuisine. Because so many of us eat food as if we are working nearly 10, 12 hours a day on the farms, in the fields. So we need this incredible amount of energy just to survive. And many of previous generations died because they could not withstand the hardship that was imposed upon our people. And our cuisine reflects that mentality. I urge my community, I urge all people to think carefully about their food. We should focus on eat far more fruits and vegetables, particularly green vegetables, but a broad range of vegetables nevertheless. Most certainly include fruits, okay? Because that's what we're genetically inclined to process. We're able to process those foods easily and convert it into blood. Yeah? We're able to extract the nutrients that those foods give us to build our bodies, our minds. Mm-hmm. That's what we're genetically predisposed to do. And of course, you've got to drink the right amount of water, yeah, so your body can continue to replenish itself and flush out all the toxins. Mm-hmm. You can see I'm still sweating. I've been outside. So here, despite the fact I'm internal, it's still quite warm to me. But I've had a good, vigorous exercise prior to coming on, so I'm sweating still a little bit. No? Do you see? We can make the difference. In too many of our family networks, we have hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes. Yeah? respiratory conditions, which are all avoidable, cancers, many of them are all avoidable. Eating food, processed food in excess is not good for you. And if in doubt, speak to your doctor, please. Don't take my word for it. I am not an expert. Speak to a doctor. Speak to the appropriate specialist, whoever has access to your medical records. It is mission critical that we get this right, because there is no excuse for causing you to shorten your life because you decided not to care enough about yourselves. So that's what it is. It's self-neglect. So we've got to just make a decision that we've got a life to lead that is worthwhile, and you can achieve. And that's why these shows are designed to be empowerment shows. Yeah. Why the central theme of the show, in addition to translating these words into action, success is ours for the taking. It's very much a mindset. You've got to be clear. This is for you, not for anyone else. This is for you. I've seen the figures, and I repeat, for uncomfortable reading. We must do better. Collectively, we must do better. Drink the appropriate amount of water, between 2 to 3 liters. Check with your doctor or nutritionist. Okay. Exercise. It's important to exercise. Okay. And if you're uncertain about what exercise you should do, please, if you can afford it, go to a local gym. If you live in Southwark, here in London, one of the important policies, family-centred, personal-centred policies brought in by the Southwark Labour Party, is to reduce or eliminate the barriers to accessing a gym full of equipment. So if you're a local council taxpayer or a youngster, it's free to get into our gyms and swimming pools. It's free. It's paid for through local tax. So there should be no barrier to you accessing those types of equipment, so you can take care of yourself and your family. A tremendously important policy. I'm immensely proud of my local Labour Party, the Southwark Labour Party. It demonstrated a willingness, despite the incredibly callous action by central government, to reduce the budget of this council and the councils generally, in our case by more than 2/3, 63 pence in the pound since 2010. Why would you do such a thing to a strategic authority such as Southwark Council, for example? Crazy, absolutely crazy, absolutely crazy. Next time you have a general election, ask yourself the question, is the government concerned with your well-being? Will the government reduce the barriers so you can stay healthy? Will the government reduce the cost of living so that you can live? Will the government ensure that our schools are well-resourced? Will the government ensure that the health services receive the funding it's required because it's paid for through our taxes? Will the government ensure the local authorities have sufficient resources to ensure our roads, our parks are kept in good condition? This, the 5th richest country in the world, it's a political choice to do otherwise. So it's important, listeners. Your health is important, and I ask you to treasure it. There's a wonderful presenter on galaxyofui.net. His name is Dr. Stephen Ferguson. He's not a medical doctor, but he has all the other degrees, all the other citations relating to human physiology and health. He says, It's not my term. I want to give him appropriate accreditation. Your health is your wealth. Let me say it again. Your health is your wealth. And if in doubt, I say to you all, please seek professional advice. Not to some random person. You go to your doctor, go to the specialist, whoever has access to your medical record, and seek out the advice that you amply deserve. And to the women who I've met earlier this week, I was able to hug, and show, caring. Well, I don't mind being challenged, okay. I was not offended. Some thought I was offended. No, I wasn't offended. Because if you're thinking about these issues, you would be satisfied the advice, the guidance, the suggestion that's been offered is sound. So it's right for you to test its robustness, both theoretically, academically, and empirically, practically. Happy to demonstrate the facts. So it's almost, he says, irrefutable. In that place, there were no big or overweight people. Okay. There were quite a number of elderly people who were very happy and were very conscious about their health and were seeking ways not only to take care of their physical health, but their intellectual and mental health. They were very conscious. What I met was a group of very, very happy people. In fact, maybe I should get a few of them on this show one day and let them give you first-hand account about their lives, their tribulations, and how it is that they are these great ages, Don't take it from me. You take it from the individual's mouths. Okay. All right. That was a slightly different approach to the health messages, but that absolutely practical example, taking people to meet the elderly who survives into their older ages, was able to practically demonstrate to these apparently healthy people, apparently, I say that, okay? I don't know about their medical records or anything like that, okay? But apparently healthy people who wanted to challenge the veracity, the accuracy of what was being said here each week in and week out. Strong out and strong in. I'm fine with it. I don't mind being challenged. Now, let's move on. First of all, before I move on, what I want to do is give recognition to past contributors to the show. Okay. Now, last week and week before, we had some really interesting guests who have really contributed in ways I believe have been outstanding. I want to give a really big shout out to Bruce Cesar Zaba, the national chairperson of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. What an outstanding guest he was. And I have to say, he provided insights into the life and times of Azania, or just for translation's sake, into South Africa. Okay, it's referred to by the Pan-African Congress as Azania, and he gave the reason about Queen Nzania. Okay, he made it quite clear as to why it's referred to as Nzania. Okay. I want to commend him as being an outstanding man of the people. Well done to you, Cesar. Well done. Well done. And I look forward to invite you on again at some point, and we can talk about other issues to do with Azania. Okay. I want to give a really big shout out, because I didn't do this in more recent weeks, to Mr. Mark Golding MP, the leader of the PNP, or the People's National Party of Jamaica. Okay. He was here in London ostensibly to celebrate Jamaica's so-called 60th year of independence, but also realize this is an excellent opportunity to establish firm ties with the diasporians here in London and Britain, okay? Not only for cultural exchanges, but for economic exchanges as well. We're going through the early stages to establish firm economic exchanges between Southwark here in London and Jamaica, a place in Jamaica. We've yet to finalize where. I look forward to solidifying those direct contact with Jamaica. And we'll give a big, big hooray, hooray, hooray to Mark Golding, leader of the People's National Party, PNP of Jamaica, for his visionary leadership. Because a party that stays together grows together. Not unlike families, if I may say so. Okay? So I look forward to the political prospects of the People's National Party of Jamaica. And lastly, I want to give a big, big shout out to Jacques Bula, or Nubian Jack. Yeah? What a wonderful son of ours is he. Isn't he a wonderful person? In recognition that there have been many members of our community who really have achieved, not only for the benefit of our community, the African Caribbean, continental African communities, but for all communities, and made a positive contribution to the life and times of Britain. His plaques, blue, black, green, and stone plaques, marking where people have lived, marking those memories, is an important contribution to the evolution and development of our communities. I say unto him, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And long may you be able to continue your works. Yeah. So don't worry. All will be well. All will be well. All will be well. But if in doubt, I say to people, ask questions. Yeah. Simply ask questions. Okay. Because if you don't ask questions, you don't know. If you don't ask questions, you don't know. You know, as you get older, you've got to continue to ask questions. You mustn't believe for even a moment that because you're older, that your learning has stopped. All right? Be inquisitive. Ask those questions. I pause because I know at this point I've given a lot of information out. There are many people out there who ask themselves the question, does he mean me? Yes, I mean you. You know, I spoke to 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds who continue to expand their mind and acquire new skills. Knowledge gaining should never stop. The day you stop acquiring new knowledge, well, what role can you play, honestly? What role can you play in our general life and times? You know? So I want to encourage the community to continue to think about your health, think about your mind, think about your spirits, yeah? And think and consider what you need to do to enhance yourselves. Okay. All righty. So let's get to the theme of today's show. Okay. Today's show will address an issue which I mentioned last week in passing. And I gave recognition to Harriet Harman MP. the MP for the Camberwell and Peckham constituency. I gave applaud for her sterling work for her period in which she has and remains our MP. But she decided to stand down, to retire for the next general election. So, on that basis, there's a process underway within the local Labour Party, okay, to select a successor to Harriet Harman. Okay. I also noted last week that not only has Harriet Harman been an outstanding MP for the Camberwell and Peckham constituency, the constituency over time has evolved. It has changed. It has become a very different place. Yeah. So when I say it's become a very different place, what I mean by that, of course, is that the constituency has become far more diverse. And most certainly members of my own community, the African Caribbean and continental African communities, okay, our numbers have ballooned over the period in which Harriet Harman was elected our MP. Okay. Now, I say this to you because as the constituency has evolved, okay, it is quite evident that the Southwark Labour Party has responded to our increased diversity. But despite the fact that we here in Southwark have the largest African concentration population in the country, we don't have an African MP. Okay. It is quite notable, okay? Quite notable. And I always emphasize this point. We do not seek advantage. We simply seek equal access, equal treatment. That's all. Equal access, equal treatment. Okay. So I'm immensely proud that the overwhelming majority of those who are potential candidates for the next election that have been longlisted by the Labour Party, Southwark Labour Party, are drawn from my community. There's some wonderful young men and women who are potential candidates, yet to be chosen by the party. So I want to give a big shout out to all of those of you who are potential candidates, are now going through the next stage of the process, and that to be selected by the wards that make up the Southwark Labour Party. And if you're not a member of the party, you can't choose. You're not involved in the process of choosing the potential candidates. And I say to those of my community who believe that politics is for other people, let me make clear to you that you are wrong. If you're nearly half the population, or in some cases, in some wards, more of the population, you have an absolute right to expect that your political representation reflects yourselves. Do not succumb to right-wing propaganda. Yeah? Do not succumb to right-wing propaganda. Please do not succumb to that type of pernicious propaganda. Okay? You have a right for political representation. I know there are many of my community who are a bit coy on the subject, okay, and pretend that they want to walk away, you know. But when given the opportunities for influence and for power, is it not incumbent upon us to nurture members of the community to achieve those levels? So our guest today is someone who is an example of someone who's gone through early trauma, early challenges, and has risen to the challenge and has succeeded and will continue to succeed in his life. I'm going to bring him into the studio now, but before I begin, I'm going to play a clip, okay? An interesting clip from his website. And I'm going to use this clip as an initial intro. And it's quite an interesting one. And you would appreciate this in a moment. It's quite an interesting one because it gives you an insight into who my guest is. Okay, so let me just get up and running. Let's get it started. There we go.
My name is Peter Babudu. Camberwell and Peckham's always been my home. I loved growing up here, but for all that was good about it, there were a lot of hard parts too. My mum was a cleaner, my dad a security guard. They immigrated from Ghana and didn't have settled status. I was excluded at 5 and lost friends and family to youth violence. When I was 15, my dad was made redundant. But thanks to Labour, we were able to move to a council flat in Camberwell. You know, Margaret Thatcher used to think living in a council flat was some type of failure. For me and my family, it was a lifeline. With that lifeline and an education maintenance allowance introduced by the Labour government, I got to university and became a solicitor. But now, with a decade of Tory cuts, children growing up like I did have the odds stacked against them more than ever. My early experiences made me who I am today and led me to Labour, my political home. Today I help lead a national youth violence charity, and over the last 4 years I served as a councillor for Rye and Peckham. In my time as a councillor, I'm proud that I delivered for our residents and transformed lives far beyond the walls. I helped put a stop to rising school exclusions across the borough, and I launched the Southwark Pioneers Fund, the first ever fund targeted at supporting women-led and ethnic minority-led businesses. All this I did as a councillor, working with the community. As your next representative in Parliament, I will transform so much more for Camberwell and Peckham and show people the radical difference that Labour in power will make. Throughout my campaign, I'll be listening to people from across our great constituency and putting their priorities at the heart of everything I do. I've already spoken to hundreds of people, and I know the type of change we all believe we need to see. People want more affordable housing and developers held to account, those without settled immigration status allowed to contribute to their community, and they want more opportunities for our young people, not rising child poverty. As your next MP, I will fight for all of these things, and I will continue to build and carry Armor's incredible legacy of advance across. Camberwell and Peckham will always be me and my family's home. With your support, I will make Camberwell and Peckham an even greater home for us all right now.
Wow. Wasn't that tremendous? Wasn't that tremendous? Well, come on up, Peter Babudu. Where are you, Peter? Where are you? Oh, the screen is come blank. Here we are. Peter, are you there? Okay. Peter, can you hear us? Okay. I think he's having a slight technical problem. Alrighty. I think he's having a slight technical problem. He was here a moment ago, but his screen has now become dark. Okay, he'll be right. It will return. Until he returns, let me just say this to you all. There you go. That was a particularly poignant experience that Peter outlined. Here we are. Let me just bring back in. Oh, Peter, there you are. At the moment.
No.
Okay. It's good to see you, young man. How are you, sir? How are you?
I'm good to be here. Thanks for having me on your show. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Your signal is not particularly good, so you're going to have to keep close to your mic, I think. Your signal's...
Okay.
Yeah. It's getting better. You're going to have to stay reasonably still, I think. But it's okay. We will survive. Don't worry, we'll survive. Okay, the signal strength is now improved. That's better. Okay. So I watch your video on a number of occasions, and each time I am struck by it. You were excluded at age 5, Peter. Let me say again, age 5. And as you know, I've been a school governor myself for 27 years. Exclusion is a big thing for me, okay? A school that might exclude a 5-year-old, I would have to question their professional competences, okay? So how did you recover, Peter, from what was evidently a traumatic experience? How did you recover?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I mean there were a few things. I think it helped that I was so like perversely. So what?
Your signal is not very good, Peter. Okay, 1 second. Let's see what we could do this end. If we can enhance your voice. Don't you worry.
It says network content. Right. Yeah. So I and the fact is, when you like the adversity you're facing, that helped. And then my family, my mum and my dad, they hugely believed quickly. They realized something wasn't right. They were, for example, and the idea that you could be, they won't exclude you, and they don't even know that you can wasn't right. And so, just going around with my mum, I would, because there wasn't someone to look after me. School that was more open to confront answers, a primary school, and there I managed to find people, and that made the world of a difference. And I began making a success in my education. I think it was a combination of being young, while young, and having family who believed in me.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're still having some trouble with your sound. I'm not sure why. You're coming in and out. It might be a setting on your microphone, I would imagine. If you've got a device, maybe. If you've got another mic, might be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. We'll just get that right. Because, of course, what you're relating to it, of course, as you say, perversely, the fact that you're young, you're given the opportunity to recover from the traumatic experience, and family and having close family around you is essential for a boy or girl who suffers such an awful experience. Okay, at 5, I cannot understand how it's possible to exclude a 5-year-old. I would have to assert that I would need to look at the professional competences of those who are teaching and leading that school. And if I'd heard of your particular exclusion, I would have been compelled, and I've had to intervene on hundreds of occasions, I was about to say numerous, hundreds of occasions over my 27 years of being a school governor, in situations not dissimilar to your own. But normally, you're at 5 is amongst the youngest. Typically, it's around 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the ages, but 5, well, that's particularly low, I have to say. But nevertheless, as you've highlighted, to have family with you and to have your parents nearby, not castigating yourself, but providing, not castigating yourself, but are able to be sensitive and work with you is essential. Right, that looks better. Better picture.
Okay. Let's give this a go. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, that's better. Much better. That's much better. There you go.
Fantastic.
All righty. So let me just press on. But I'm conscious that our time on this show flies with us, flies away. So what advice would you give guardians or parents of excluded children? What advice would you give them, Peter?
Well, I mean, I would say that it's really important that we challenge said about our children, that we don't just accept immediately anything that's being told us. It's really important. There's a very formal process to how exclusion should happen. You have the right to get information about every last stage. So I think it's really important. Clear evidence. What are we saying is wrong? What opportunities have been given for your child to actually come in? Because I think what you see in so many exclusions, and like prejudice that sits behind it. If your child is black, particularly Black Caribbean, 3 times more likely to be excluded. And, you know, there's no good reason for why there should be a difference like that to kind of challenge things. But I do say that recognizing it's difficult, right? You know, schools. So there are really good organisations there that I would encourage parents if your child is with, like the Communities Empowerment Network that support parents whose child. So making sure that you challenge and that you try and get support from places that and that can make a world of difference, and make sure that schools do what they can to actually exclude your child.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, and that's such important advice. I know that I've met many parents in this situation who found it very, very difficult to cope. Okay, often there's a degree of shame. Secondly, I find that often parents are frustrated, particularly in their relationship with their sons and daughters. And then thirdly, where they believe that there is injustice, it's feeling alone and almost, in some cases, powerless. Okay, and that demonstrates through their general behaviour as parents. Okay, it's not until you see young men like yourself come along and offer the sound advice, okay, to parents. Now, parents then develop the courage in some cases, although have the professional support so that they can ask the questions of the school, okay, so that your child can be reintegrated back into the school community. Okay? But nevertheless, it is good advice, and it is a subject I will pick up on another occasion. But I did want to note, though, that you, like me, have a rather busy lifestyle. Okay? And I know that you're married. Okay, you have children. How do you manage your time between your family, your community, and your daytime job? How do you manage this, you know? And could you manage it if you were an MP, for example? Could you do this? Tell me, how do you manage this?
Yeah. I mean, it's another great question, Mark. I think it's worth saying up front. It's not easy. It's not easy balancing the times. I have 3 children, quite young, 6 and under. Full time, I work for a national youth as well, and I have a foundation supporting young people who face life. And I think there's a few things. I try and protect time for my family, whether it's about that we have some time together on the weekends, that kind of is ready for school, getting them ready for bed wherever possible. Just making sure we have times, even be it a daddy-daughter day or a Sunday, just making sure the element for all of us to have together. And using a bit, making sure that my wife has time to herself as well.
Yes.
Because it can't be all that I want to do. It can't be all about me. So it's those things, and friends and family. My mother-in-law still lives in Peckham as well. Has helped to us at times when we've needed it. So it's those sorts of making sure that there's time with the family, that we have conversations if it's feeling a bit much for us. And that kind of sees me through. And as an MP, one of the things that will really help is I've got experience of working full time, being a councillor, and I'm clear that as an MP, there will be no second job. I think that will make a lot of space for me to be able to kind of serve my community. And I think it will, I'm in the community all the time. So I will be, and I've got so many networks in the area already that things MP, it'll take them a long time to pick up. I will be serving my community, the community that I've known part of to this day.
Very good, very good. So you've lived in Peckham for most of your life, would I be right?
Yeah. That's my parents emigrated here from Ghana. First, we came to Peckham, so I've grown up here. My wife went to the same primary school as me. My kids are here now. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah. It doesn't get much
well done.
more local.
Oh, wonderful!
So I'm born and bred.
Good for you. Huh? Good for you. The same primary school. Wow. Good for you. That you won my heart, I have to say.
Good.
Oh, that I didn't know. Okay, I did a lot of research. I didn't know. Went to the same primary school. Good for you. Good for you. There you are.
Thank you.
His wife went to the same primary school. Oh my gosh. Okay. So tell me then, Peter, when did you realise that you wanted to become a politician? And share with us your leading political influences. So when did you realise you wanted to be a politician? Who are your leading political influences? Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. I mean, when I realised, I always had an interest in politics, and I think the first thing that kind of kindled it was just seeing the difference that political decisions could make to the lives of somebody like me. Whether it was mentioned in my video that when my dad lost his job, we had to in Camberwell, just on the Southampton Way estate, and it kind of registered that the only reason that there was social housing available was because the government had seen the kind of fundamental need for affordable housing, and so it excited me a bit early, recognizing that with different choices somewhere for us, or we'd have had to move far away, so I'd have to change schools, uproot my life, and so I think that politicized me a bit. But then I really kind of got more politicized as I was as a parent. I think raising my children, seeing that lots of the challenges that existed when I was growing up, like youth violence, poverty, was still here, and recognizing that my children are going to face this. And I mean, another thing you may not know, Martin, but this did like kind of push me on as well. I was with my oldest child and my wife in Castle, and so we happened to see a young boy getting stabbed. Explain to your child who is so young what's going on, sort of challenges facing your community, is so difficult. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of trying to address those challenges. So I think that was really kind of politicized me, and it's part of why I'm not looking to be an MP in my community, because that's the community I really want to serve. Institutions that have inspired me, it's a long list. It's a short.
Okay. Give us
my whole life.
What's your top five? Top five influences.
Okay. All right, I'll give you my top five. I've, as someone who's 40, Harriet Harman has been here my whole life, and seeing how she's championed equality has been inspiration.
Well done.
I think
I would applaud that.
I'd also put.
Well done. Yeah. Yes.
Incredible record, and I think her work spanned not just women's equality, but recognizing the Equality Act, something like that, such a seminal piece of legislation, very I've looking further afield, and Barack Obama incredibly inspiring. That journey, that commitment to change, it's something that makes it reminds politics just really matters, and that you, whatever your background, you can make. And beyond that, I would say that there's a set of local politicians, as well as people like Dora Dixon Farr, who just showed me what it is to be in your community, where your community is concerned.
Hold on. Shout out to Dora Dixon Farr, Councillor Dora Dixon Farr. She's for me a wonderful matriarch of a politician. She represents the ward.
Agreed.
I just want to give a big shout out to her. Dora, I hope you're listening. Yeah, well done. And I've gained so much wisdom from her personally, I have to say. She's such a warm, loving, open, giving person. Well done to you, Peter.
I agree. And Dora, I look to you, Martin, as when I first came into the Labour, people who took me under their wing, showed me what it means to just relate. It doesn't matter if you're being a difficult voice in the room, as long as you're championing your community, you're supposed to. That's what being a representative is. Represent the people. So yeah, I'd name those as like politicians that have inspired me and that I've tried to model how I do myself on.
Very good. I like this, of course, because as you describe your influencers, of course, it is interesting to note that each time you quote the name, your eyes brighten, you see, so we know it's sincere. You can see it, as in our business, reading people is so important. I can feel your sincerity. So thank you for those kind words. But Peter, you were elected as a councillor from 2018 through to 2022, representing the Rye Lane ward. Okay. What you call your greatest successes as a councillor? Just share with us your greatest successes.
So I mean, just being a councillor is such an honour, and a whole range of issues, like be it kind of housing situations, taking all of it meant a huge amount to me. If I pulled out what felt like some of my greatest achievements, to be able to address rising exclusions in Southwark. When as a councillor, so in 2018, exclusions had previous 4 years. So we were getting back into a place where it was becoming to see children being excluded, and again, particularly Black traveller children. And so this resonated personally with me, knowing that it can have and how it nearly had a really negative impact in my life. The chair of education scrutiny in Southwark, and I launched a review, and in the council, trying to understand, what's happening, looking at their data, speaking to academies in Southwark. Pretty much all of our secondary schools are academies. I brought in Ofsted. I brought in the representative of national government, and I brought in young stories about what exclusion. Young people. We heard from someone for eating a biscuit in class, from someone who'd been excluded for opening a door too loud. Just do not make sense as grounds for excluding somebody. And proud of that review, because one, we managed to give young people and parents a voice.
We've got a slight technical from. I'm going to ask you to try to keep as still as possible and speak directly into your mic. We're having some difficulty with your audio, but keep going.
Okay, so we managed to get to a place where, on young people's recommendation, we introduced a proposed inclusion charter across Southwark, where local schools and the council would commit to prevent exclusions from happening. And I really want to give credit to the schools that agreed to lean into this process, that recognized that something wasn't right, they could do better. And it took a couple of years of work and great relevant cabinet members like Councillor Jasmine Ali to actually, we've got inclusion charter, and the academies across Southwark have signed up to it, and we have exclusion 20% of what they were before, and on their way to zero. So we've got to a place where they're included. It's only being done on the narrowest of safety grounds, and it's created a mock-up in Manchester, Oldham, Bristol, Kirklees, and beyond as a way for our children in school to give them a better chance of, of avoiding the criminal employment later. So I'm really proud to have led that work on exclusions. If I've got time, do I have time on it? Or
Yep, go ahead. Yes.
Right. Other thing I'm really area that you work on now is establishing the Southwark Pioneers Fund. So I'm a cabinet member for innovation, and I went out to the community and tried to understand entrepreneurs and people who want to start a business that can serve their community are facing. I went across. I set up an advisory council of like big businesses, small businesses, sections, and we came up with the idea for the Southwark Pioneers Fund that would serve black as well as women-led businesses who get only 2% of the capital that goes to. And they talked about needing business support. They talked about needing funding, how important it would be for and I'm just really proud that we've managed to get the Southwark Pioneers Fund off the ground. We're funding some community businesses, and again, we've inspired people nationally, and had like a £5 million commitment from national funders to invest in the social economy. So I was really proud to get that off the ground as well, and serve the communities that haven't been served quite so well, particularly with COVID. It's just something that I'm really proud of.
Can I just say at this point, it's always such a pleasure to meet the forerunner to the role that I now currently possess. Yes. We should share it with the audience so we can declare. So I'm now the cabinet member for businesses, jobs and town centres, the economic lead on the cabinet. And with the cabinet, of course, we've recently relaunched the Pioneers Fund. Okay. It is one of your legacies, yeah, will most certainly have significant economic impact on the communities, yeah, and specifically we're focused on the communities in and around the Peckham area. It will be very, very impactful. So I want to encourage those of you who live in Southwark, or work in Southwark, or have a business in Southwark, okay, and you need support, additional support, either additional capital or technical or training support, please talk to the council, okay? And you use your search engine and put in Southwark Pioneers Fund, okay? It will take you to the relevant pages, okay? I positively encourage you, men or women, young or old, to make your inquiries, okay? We most probably can help you. If not, we can signpost you to whoever can give you the necessary support. So the founder of that fund, which I'm now currently marketing in my role as cabinet lead, was founded by this young man. One of my sons, oh, I'm so proud. One of my sons founded this fund, yeah, which will have significant social impact. I've not had this opportunity to say this to you publicly, Peter. Thank you. Just thank you. Well done. Well done.
Thank you, Martin, for continuing to champion. Fantastic to know that it's not just in safe hands, but in it's in the communities. So thank you for taking Southwark Pioneers Fund forward.
Powerful achievement. And your work with schools, you produce seminal documents, And if I may say so, go back 30 years prior, almost prior to you, before you were born, almost prior to before you were born, it was even worse, let me assure you, even worse. So we've come a long way. And the of your work on exclusion has resulted more recently in the charter to effectively banish exclusion from Southwark schools. All the head teachers have signed up to it now, okay? So the charter to banish exclusion from Southwark schools. And the work started years before you arrived, but your work acted as an additional catalyst for this change of culture to occur in Southwark schools. Again, I've not had the opportunity to publicly say this to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Powerful achievement. Impactful achievement. Yes, you're an ideal person to be our MP because you've proven you can deliver on the agendas that you put for yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
So I note on your website that you've launched a community survey. Tell me, what have you learned about the communities in terms of their attitudes, their views, their aspirations? What are the sort of key lessons you've learned so far? I know it's still underway, but give us some evidence. Of yeah, please.
Sure. And it's been fantastic to get such a range of response from like older people in the community, younger people. We've circulated to schools, to business. I mean, it's one of the things that comes through really clearly is love Camberwell and Peckham, how unique a place they think it is, and how they do know. We gave people space to say what they love about the area, and that's come through clearly. They have been the top 4 priorities that were highlighted. One is the cost of living crisis. 2 was the availability of affordable housing. 3 and 4 was the environment. And we gave people space beyond like setting out their priorities about why they were there. And you heard from residents and people who work that many are facing profound adversity. Someone talked about just being like everyone else they know. And that extent of it, they've been living with austerity fit to come, with inflation high. So people really talked about what they needed. And I think as well on the housing front, hearing quotes of the sort of situations people spoke to the fact that we need more affordable housing. We need to ensure that the kind of private rental market is treating its fairly. And I mean, so we had some other areas that's so high in the top rankings, but there were really powerful quotes around them. And I think the fact that who said that they still don't feel safe in Camberwell and Peckham's Park. They don't feel they're covered. So it really spoke to some of the challenges that we do face as a community, and that we cannot. We need to get to a place where we can be supporting families who are in crisis, and making sure that Camberwell and Peckham becomes somewhere that feels safe for all, where people feel they can leave or sit in the park in peace as well. But yeah, it's been a really good uptake of that, and it's just great to understand that the sorts of priorities coming through are just the kind that Camberwell and Peckham would need. The last thing I'd highlight from the survey is from their MP, like what kind of factors are important. And I once have said, want somebody who understands the local areas, committed to address challenges facing their community. I think so. Some recognise that there are like that's what they really said they cared about. Somebody who gets the areas, committed to it, and wants to.
Right. That's really interesting series of observation. Can I just stress the issue of affordable housing? And is it your impression that residents recognise that Southwark Labour Council has got a commitment to build homes in significant quantities, more than 11,000 new council homes. I wonder if that's getting through to people, do you think? Or is it that they are seeing the private development and are judging the council based upon the private developments that are going up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I foresee some of the overall picture that there's so much more demand here. So it often, I think often the great work that Southwark councils do, I think people see, I think we had some quotes about.
Oh, we lost you. Oh, the internet.
Some reducing in places.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay.
We seem to be having some connection problem with yourself this morning, but don't worry. Keep going on. Keep going on.
Yeah. So I think we heard a bit of bias. So people recognizing that through no fault of the council, just through legislation, the stock of social housing going down.
I'm really sorry, audience. We've got some connection problem.
Overall lack.
Yes. For some reason, your connection is not too good at the moment, but nevertheless, can you hear us all right there, Peter? Aha. Should we back now? All right, don't worry. We'll give him a moment. That's better. Yeah, turn off your camera. It's the right thing to do. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. In respect of affordable housing, what does your feedback say about affordable housing?
I think the lack of supply of it, and so I think build it. What we saw was people talking about just and the fact that you have things like right to buy, which are feeding into the stock of council down, as far as people were concerned. So I think, based on people see the lack, they see how much more need there is than supply, even if building more council homes.
Thank you for that feedback. Very interesting feedback, and it is duly noted. Although the commitment to build 11,000 new council homes over the next 10, 15 years is a firm commitment, which we will seek to honour our promises. So up until the last election, 2,500 should either be built or in the process of being built, and we honoured that promise. But what we really need is a government that believes in truly affordable homes, genuinely affordable homes. That's what we really need, and therefore will fund local authorities like our own so that we can build those homes. So we're not wholly dependent upon the private sector to accrue affordable homes through our planning policy structures. But you're absolutely right. It's a burgeoning issue that the government and indeed local government thereafter will need to address fully. We'll see what this government will do in the future. Okay. You've talked about the community conversation, the survey, and you've given an indication of the feedback and the issues that people are concerned with. Now, tell us, why are you the best person to represent the Camberwell and Peckham constituency? And share with us your experience and other personal qualities that makes you the best person for the job.
Thank you, Martin. Well, I think that I know that ex-MP. The challenges that many of them face, but more of this, with the experience to be an MP, of delivering change locally, because being an MP is a role that involves influencing, work for a decade, delivering change on the national stage, as well as my Southwark. I bring the ability that we need in an MP. I'm someone I'm ready to do the detailed work of formulating and challenging legislation so that we get laws that serve our community. And I think I should be, because of the determination I have, I've faced challenges through much of my years, and I've worked relentlessly to move forward through them. And that's the same fight and determination to Camberwell and Peckham, addressing challenges that the community faces and doing with the community to make sure that we are served by our government.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And just to be clear, clearly during your period of being a councillor, you achieved great things. You've been most certainly impactful. But of course, Parliament's a very different environment. I mean, you've got more than 600 MPs, half or so might be on your side or not. It's a very different environment. Will you cope there?
Yes, it's a bigger setting. And I think one of the things that really stands out, the sorts of change that I've in Southwark and in my broader work, is that I bring people together, get support for change, even from those who might come at things with exclusions. It would have got nowhere without the schools agreeing. So done wrongly, I think I could have got schools back, said, look, the rules are we can do this with exclusions, but I built relationships, worked with challenges they were facing, with budget cuts, meaning that they're often in a struggling to serve their students well. So my ability to bring behind shared purpose is something that I think will be hugely important in Parliament. Select committees or in the cabinet, I will be working to understand other people's priorities and find ways to address and deliver our kind of to happen. It's the sort of thing I've been doing in Southwark, in my institution, that I'm a director at a national youth violence charity. Without bringing people
No, I wonder if we may have lost you. Peter, I think our connections is unstable, a little unstable this morning. Can you hear us all right?
No.
You're back.
Yes, I'm here. Where did you lose me?
I think you might have. I want you to start again, because it was throughout. It was somewhat uncertain. Why you'd make a difference in Parliament?
Okay. So what I said is work in Southwark. What you saw was me bringing together people who often have perspectives and getting them to agree to the change we need to see. My work, it would have gone nowhere without working with academies, trying to understand, like dealing with austerity, having work with them, understand, and reach a point where it wasn't just schools should exclude less. It was the schools themselves as well saying, we want to get to a place where we're not excluding students, which we can only do even more closely with the council. So I have a track record of bringing people together, shared challenges and shared solutions as well. And I think that's in Parliament, be that in select committees where you have to work with other parties, you have to find those common issues that you agree on, and doing the work to kind of build those relationships, you can come up with solutions that are backed on a cross-party basis. So I think government and bring together people and find ways that where we do agree, so that we can actually get solutions into legislation, whoever's in power, and
Here we go. Right. Yes, our connection with Peter this morning isn't as stable as I would like. Peter, can you still hear us? All right, he will be back shortly. And he spoke with such eloquence this morning on his vision and his determination to achieve these most important of subjects. Okay, and whilst he's sorting out his connection, just to say that despite being excluded at age 5, he went on to read philosophy, politics, and economics at Lincoln University in 2001, before completing an MS in development studies at Birkbeck University. Peter, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm here, Martin.
Okay. Boy, it's okay. Just a little unstable this morning, but I think we may have to do this again, and we'll sort out these internet issues with yourself. We just want to move on. I'm just conscious of our time now. You have a series of pledges, okay? And I've read these pledges with interest, but I invite you to share these pledges with the audience this morning, okay? And these pledges, of course, are the very base upon which you might be selected by Labour members in the coming weeks. So I see your first pledge. I will deliver a better future for our children and young people. And then you go on to say, our children deserve the best start in life. I will fight to slash child poverty and boost investment in early years so that parents get the help they need for their children to flourish. Let's add a bit more flesh to that particular bone. What do you mean by that particular pledge?
Okay, so I think that there's a range of legislation with families and driving the significant rises, be that the kind of 2-child benefit cap, the remove credit uplift, things like the bedroom tax. They fed into levels of child poverty. So I think there'll be a first thing about is increasing child poverty. I think that would be a clear priority of me to be chained to Camberwell and Peckham. And I think going further, that early years, what we do in terms of investing in when they're very young, before they've even hit school, it has a huge and in this country at present, we have some of the lowest years funding of any developed economy. It's really too low. People aren't getting access to the kind of high quality early years provision that can sustain their lives. So that's what I'm saying when I talk about better. I mean making sure that we give them the best start that they can have. We child poverty and we actually give them the opportunities to flourish.
Thank you for that. That's an interesting pledge, and thank you for your commitment. Can I just move away from the child and family-centered question to one about the environment? You say here that I will champion climate action in Parliament to deliver a green transition nationally, and I will prioritise I will prioritise local solutions shaped by our own citizens' jury on climate change. Just tell us a bit more about that particular pledge, please.
Sure. So I I think when people addressing climate change, it's often quite removed from communities. I want to see the climate change in a way that really serves the people of Camberwell and Peckham. We have a huge amount of council housing here. We should be investing in insulating council homes. We need government backing to do that at scale. It's the kind of thing which helps to address the cost of living crisis, because families will save money and the cost of heating their homes. It's several jobs to the local community because it's a huge commitment, and it serves the environment as well, because you're going to have kind of less use heating for homes, helping to reduce our consumption of fossil fuels. That's what so that we best serve the people of the the council has done a fantastic job of making climate change understand, having a citizen jury, people brought, just from the general population, they want to see like more accessible public transport, making it easier to do walking, reasons for people to get out of their cars, reduce air pollution, and make Camberwell and Peckham live.
Oh, Peter?
Hello? Oh, cut off somewhere there.
Yeah, we did, yes. You said to make
really sorry about this.
Don't you worry. You said something about to make Camberwell and Peckham at that point
even greater, even place to live, an even greater place to live.
Don't worry. Well, I think we have to do this again, and we'll work out how we can overcome these communication issues. But there are some really important points contained in your pledges, which I really want the audience to hear, so that I'm confident it will resonate with them. Let me just, another issue we address is you say that you will fight, you will, forgive me, you prioritize protecting the vulnerable in our community, be a tireless ally to women, and tackle persistent racial inequality. What does that mean in practical terms, Peter?
Sure. So at present, as my work in we have significant racial disproportionality in certain areas. Black children, we saw through COVID in the higher mortality rates for Black people in terms of maternal health, like mortality rates for Black women being 4 times than for white women. I think these things are unacceptable. That on areas where racial disproportionality exists, and work tirelessly to address, it will mean taking a different approach in each area. In exclusions, it's meant create and directly challenging bad practices. I think it will involve like listening to Black women and hearing, understanding as they have. I can speak even to my wife, is a doctor herself, and was not satisfied with the quality of care that she received. So I see that even for those who have relevant professional knowledge and expertise, they identify challenges and issues in how they're treated and cared for, and I'll be championing those voices and advocating for the changes that Peter.
Oh, so we lost you again. Okay, Peter, can you hear us still?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly all the time.
Right. Okay, we might be losing you this end. Okay, and it's interesting to hear what you say on this particular issue. And I know that there are some members in the community who want to understand. Would you be a sort of Bernie Grant type figure in relation to ethnic issues that affect British society, and therefore be quite outspoken, or will you adopt a different style but seek to be equally as effective? What type of politician would you be?
Thanks, man. I mean, I didn't mention him in my list, but he's a huge inspiration for me. Politician that fought for his community with everything he had. I'd love to be such a great community, and I will do so with pride. I think that the best way of serving my community is by us getting the Labour government to deliver the sorts of radical policies we need. So that is what I'll focus on bringing about. Yeah, and it will serve us well. But if I see there are issues affecting our community, then I'll be sure to champion those. I think it's right that you should, as your representative, you should represent what they say matters, what is affected, and I'll do that unapologetically as the MP for Camberwell and Peckham.
Okay. Thank you, because that's very, very clear. And from my perspective, hearing you say that, and you've addressed the issue of climate change as well, you're clearly a family-centered person. You care about the communities, and not just our own community, but all communities. So I'm more than satisfied with your response. I note on your amongst your pledges, you've also included that you will, within 100 days, have a office in the constituency. Is that a pledge you intend to honour?
100%. I'm spent 40 years serving Camberwell and Peckham, so it's kind of well known. I think by having to be very accessible to the community, I think more than the office, it's important that we find ways to support a community point. I'll be looking to have local charities work out of the space as well, so that I know how to better access benefits they might be eligible for, provide them with other sorts of support, the help we can get through this cost of living crisis and the next phase of austerity coming. So I see as using that presence to reach into my community and serve them as closely as I can. But I'm totally committed to actually delivering against this pledge. And if so, on it straight away, we identify how we can.
Right. Good morning, Peter. Sorry about this. Your connection's gone again. Hello.
Sorry about that. Did you get much of my response?
No, unfortunately. Yes. Do it again, Sam.
I can only apologize to the audience.
Don't you worry.
I said I am totally committed within 100 days. I've been actively looking so that I'm really clear on how it can be made to work, and not a kind of community hub as well, where local charities can meet with residents, help them access benefits they might be eligible for, address issues before they reach crime. A physical presence will be a great way of making me accessible to the community before people reach crisis point.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. What I'm going to do, and with your permission, just spend maybe 5-10 minutes. We might take a call or two. We have slightly run over, but we had some connection problems here. So, if with your permission, are you okay for another 10 minutes or so? Are you okay?
Yeah, 10 minutes. But yeah, I'm happy for 10 minutes. Fine.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I'm going to open the line formally, and those of you viewing us via YouTube or Facebook, and please, if you are watching us via YouTube or Facebook, please press the like button, the thumbs up, or press the notification button so you're notified of future shows. It just gives us an affirmation that the shows themselves are meeting your desires. But the number to call, it's 0208 133 5616. You can speak directly to Peter Babudu, want to be a prospective Labour candidate for the Camberwell and Peckham constituency. So the number to call, it's 0208 133 5616. If you wish to speak to Peter, I'll open up the line now. And whilst they're thinking about it, Peter, I did want to ask you a few additional questions, if I may, on unions. Are you a trade union members? Do you support trade unionism?
Yes, I've been a member of Unite for several years. And as well, I'm committed to unions. When I launched my campaign, I'm a member of the C. When I launched my campaign, on the first day, I was out on the picket line with our postal worker.
Okay. Right. Okay. Can you still hear us, Peter? Yeah, connection is not good today. Peter, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you crystal clear.
You can hear us crystal clear. It's just you're coming through to us intermittently. I think we need to do this interview again, just so that we can overcome.
Great.
Not a problem. Another quick fire question was I've got you here. Obviously, we're no longer in Europe, okay, and therefore Britain. Again.
And obviously we're no longer in Europe or the EU. Do you mind repeating the remainder of the question?
Yeah. As we're no longer in Europe, what would you do if you were in Parliament to encourage the government, we're still in opposition, to get Britain back on its feet again from an economic point of view? What would be your suggestion to government? What does the government need to invest more in, I suppose?
Sure. I mean, I'd have a sensible relationship with the rest of Europe, because we can part of the relationship with the EU, with our closest, largest, recognizing our community well. They're down to be looking to actually try and get an arrangement that helps support growth.
Yeah.
The second will be pushing the government to have a really clear plan for how economy that's fit for the 21st century. I talked about the need for a Green New Deal. workers in private.
All righty. Okay, we're still having connection problems. Maybe. Sorry, Peter, we can't hear you any longer. I think what we'll do for now. Sorry, Peter. Yes, you're still going in and out. We're still losing you. So I think we just need to review our connection with yourselves. We'll rerun this interview so that we can hear you clearly next time. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to ask you to give us your closing statement as to why you are the best person for the job. Just tell us again why you are the best person to represent the Camberwell and Peckham constituency.
In me, you have to have a representative to the community and ready to deliver on that, who has the data and the determined tirelessly for the your time today. Sorry for the connection.
That's right.
Please go to my website, www. of making change happen. It'd be fantastic to go to my site and join our.
Right. Yes, we're still experiencing problems this end, Peter. Don't you worry. I think I've got the last part of what you said. That is your website. Those who want to know more about Peter, his pledges, his commitments, his achievements, please go to his website, which is www.peter, P-E-T-E-R, Babudu, BABUDU.com. Peter Babudu. I'll repeat the spelling. It's Peter, P-E-T-E-R, BABUDU.com, C-O-M. Okay, and you can find out much more about Peter and his obvious many achievements and obvious talents. Okay, Peter, can you still hear us?
I can. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to coming back very soon.
Yeah, we'll sort this out for you. Don't you worry. We are a very determined lot here. We will not let a bit of technology let us down. But don't you worry. You've already demonstrated you are a driven person, a family man who has achieved and really impacted on tens of thousands of people's lives. And given the opportunity to be our representative for the Camberwell and Peckham constituency, you most certainly will continue this record of achievement, the record of impact, the record of sheer love for the community that you serve. You most certainly will be an outstanding representative for our constituency. I want to say to you, thank you so very much for spending time with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Martin, and thank you so much to the listeners as well.
Hopefully see you later on. Good day to you and your family. Because I want to recognize your wife, okay? But I know that families are so important to us in public life. It is so important you've got someone with you at all times, always at your side, give you the support you need. So I would extend to you and your family, thank you. I wish you well. We wish you well for the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care,
Bye.
Peter. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. There you are. So there you have it. I'm sorry about the connection, but we're going to sort it out. We may do this again next week, but we did need to sort out that connection because there's much that I believe was missed, but we'll make sure you've heard the key messages from Peter Babudu. Okay. And as you could appreciate, his passion for the community, despite the connection problems, shone through. And I think what I'm going to do, just to emphasize why he's such and is an ideal candidate for the Labour Party for the next general election, I'm going to replay the earlier film where he describes himself in detail to you all, okay? And let's see what you think of this. Here we go. Let's do this one more time whilst we're here.
My name is Peter Babudu. Camberwell and Peckham's always been my home. I loved growing up here, but for all that was good about it, there were a lot of hard parts too. My mum was a cleaner, my dad a security guard. They immigrated from Ghana and didn't have settled status. I was excluded at 5 and lost friends and family to youth violence. When I was 15, my dad was made redundant. But thanks to Labour, we were able to move to a council flat in Camberwell. You know, Margaret Thatcher used to think living in a council flat was some type of failure. For me and my family, it was a lifeline. With that lifeline and an education maintenance allowance introduced by a Labour government, I got to university and became a solicitor. But now, with a decade of Tory cuts, children growing up like I did have the odds stacked against them more than ever. My early experiences made me who I am today and led me to Labour, my political home. Today I help lead a national youth violence charity, and over the last 4 years I served as a councillor for Rye Lane, Peckham. In my time as a councillor, I'm proud that I delivered for our residents and transformed lives far beyond the ward. I helped put a stop to rising school exclusions across the borough, and I launched the Southwark Pioneers Fund, the first ever fund targeted at supporting women-led and ethnic minority-led businesses. All this I did as a councillor, working with the community. As your next representative in Parliament, I will transform so much more for Camberwell and Peckham and show people the radical difference that Labour in power will make. Throughout my campaign, I'll be listening to people from across our great constituency and putting their priorities at the heart of everything I do. I've already spoken to hundreds of people, and I know the type of change we all believe we need to see. People want more affordable housing and developers held to account, those without settled immigration status allowed to contribute to their community, and they want more opportunities for our young people, not rising child poverty. As your next MP, I will fight for all of these things, and I will continue to build on Harriet Harman's incredible legacy of advanced equality. Camberwell and Peckham will always be me and my family's home. With your support, I will make Camberwell and Peckham an even greater home for us all right now.
And there you have it, Peter Babudu, okay? He was excluded from school at age 5. And despite that setback, he went on to university to read philosophy, politics, and economics at Lincoln University. And of course, he then went on in completing his MSc at Development Studies at Birkbeck University. So he thrived despite adversity. He's the right type of character, in my view, to represent the Camberwell and Peckham constituency. So I give my unreserved support to Peter Babudu. I commend him to you. It's not my usual tactic on these programs, but he most certainly has the right qualities. So this is the Motivator Show, where we translate our words into actions. Remember, success is ours for the taking. I remain yours always until the next strong. The Motivator. We will translate our great words into action. and be no doubt that we will win. We will win. We will win. There you are. Thank you all. And if you're viewing us via YouTube or Facebook, please press the like button. Or indeed subscribe to be notified of future episodes of the Motivated Show alongside Empress Adam. We welcome your support. Thank you.